What I'm going to be talking about in this video is Dave Ramsey's take on the 15-year mortgage versus the 30-year mortgage, and how his advice is more than just outdated, but it's actually self-serving. But before I do, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the quietest ones in the room with your host, Trey. I gotta say it, just the mere fact that you have clicked onto this video and you're listening to the sound of my voice, you by far are the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. So once again, thank you for joining me. And I'm going to have to add here, Dave Ramsey is once again the clown of the day. I have gotten notice that many people have discussed what I touched on with Dave Ramsey, which is his take on the 15-year mortgage versus the 30-year mortgage. I did mention in a previous video that I did believe that his information was outdated because everyone's financial situation is unique and therefore is not a one-size-fits-all. And Dave Ramsey, for as long as he's been a media talking head in the financial space, he's given some good advice from time to time. But there have also been times when, from my perspective, he's given some really asinine advice to individuals who are not in the same situation that he's in, let alone in the upper to higher wealth statuses in this country. And so what I want to touch on is, yeah, it's outdated, of course, and many people have touched on this point, but how it's actually self-serving. Now, if you don't know about Dave Ramsey, he's a financial guru who's a Christian who positions your wealth and the lack thereof as a morality. He takes a moral position on matters as they pertain to finance. Now, you may like this. You may despise it. But one thing that we need to talk about is how he has obtained his wealth over time, which is he has convinced many people to buy his products, rent from him, buy a home from him, etc. Now, one may say, well, what's so wrong with that? Dave Ramsey's actually helping people. Well, he's probably helped some, but in the midst of helping, it doesn't imply that he's not a self-serving businessman. Ramsey is a real estate investor in the 1%. So we cannot detach the reality from the average listener of this conversation and the average listener of Dave Ramsey's show as not being those who are in the top 1% in this country. Most people are making $50,000 to $60,000 and below in this country. And there are a small handful of individuals, Dave Ramsey being one of them, who hold the wealth of this country in their hands. And Dave Ramsey, unlike many of the 1%, is actually forward-facing, front-facing, and he's able to convince many people day after day, week after week, that his solutions to their financial problems is the route and the best solution for them. But here's the reality once again. Dave Ramsey is wealthy and has made a substantial income through real estate investing and media products. He's obviously been encouraging the average person to avoid the 30-year mortgage, only to buy the 15-year fixed mortgage, which reduces buyer demand, especially at an entry level. So to position that the right way, essentially what I'm saying is Dave Ramsey is convincing many that they should go with the 15-year mortgage versus the 30-year mortgage because as a real estate investor, he understands that this can reduce buyer demand for the group of individuals that will listen to him. And how does this help him? It implies that it's beneficial because fewer people would be competing to buy properties like Dave Ramsey would want. So imagine, as we see in the media now, the news is that the housing market is looking to collapse. The sellers are going to be outweighed by the buyers. The control is going back to the buyers. Well, if you're an investor, you don't want that. You want the control on your side of the fence. And so with fewer people competing to buy, investors like Dave Ramsey and many others can swoop in and take large amounts of real estate. I bet where you live right now, you're seeing tons of new construction. And if you're not seeing tons of new construction, you have become aware that many of the purchases taking place in cities all across America are done by private organizations. You're probably renting right now from a private organization that owns not just your condo or your townhome or your house, but many across this nation. I recall during the pandemic, when it came time for regular people to go and purchase homes and there were bidding wars, companies would swoop in and pay cash for said properties. And it cut out the regular, average, everyday American who just wanted a place to live and raise a family. And let's not get away from this with Dave Ramsey. He's obviously been selling discipline as a product. His entire brand revolves around moralizing personal finances, equating debt with sin and discipline with righteousness. Now, as a Christian, he has every right to do so. But it can certainly, to me, come off as manipulative when you're an investor and everything that you speak about, for the most part, revolves around your benefit. If you can't see that, maybe it's because you're on Dave Ramsey's side. Maybe you're one of the fortunate individuals who are at the top 1% in this country. Or you're in the upper middle class and you're moving towards that direction. But for most people, this is not the case. And I say it over and over and over again. The rich do not get rich off the rich. They get rich off the have-nots. The debt that people accumulate is owed to someone as a credit. And Dave Ramsey lives in that space where he has credits and someone else is holding debt on his properties in America. Now, I understand that there's this perspective that what Dave Ramsey said is outdated. And I get it, but that's not the point I want to drive home here. I don't want to make it like I believe that Dave Ramsey is somehow not coherent or he's not understanding exactly what he's doing, because he does. He completely understands his positions. He's been doing this for so long. The 15-year mortgage versus the 30-year mortgage, the math just doesn't work for most people. If you do a 15-year mortgage, you're going to have significantly higher monthly payments in most metro areas. It's going to price the working class families out. And it's a financial trap, because if your mortgage is too high and you're in the working class and you happen to lose your job, which we know is going on so much now with the layoffs, and as we look into the future with AI potentially replacing so many jobs, you lose your job and you're certainly unable to afford that 15-year mortgage with a higher interest rate. Yes, I understand that the 15-year mortgage interest rates are slightly lower than the 30-year mortgage. But many people take advantage of the 30-year mortgage so they can take their money and they can do something else with it. And if the house appreciates, they just end up selling the home and downsizing or finding out that there's a more favorable situation for themselves. It provides flexibility. And everything that Dave Ramsey says does not pertain to everyone. It's too nuanced. And I watch him and I watch the individuals on his shows and people call in. And I am amazed by the amount of what I think is going on, which is the amount of disrespect I see these so-called financial experts provide to these call-ins. And I can't believe that these are real people. Sometimes these feel like they are scripted. And the disrespect I hear without knowing the full context of the story, they're just throwing out financial advice. Sell the house. Sell the house. Get rid of it. You don't need it. Sell the car. You don't need it. Who doesn't need these things? We're all fighting for these things. We all want these things. We all need these things. And so for there to be a continual ignorance on Dave Ramsey's part, which is self-serving, regarding your finances is irresponsible, and I think he should be taken to task. I'd like to see him in a debate. I'd like to see him in a debate with some economists, some other individuals who are in the real estate industry, some people who really understand the ins and outs of economics in this country. I would really love to see that because, again, Dave Ramsey makes a lot of foolish takes. And I don't think he's always wrong, but I do think he's manipulative. Anyhow, please like, share, and subscribe. And as I always say, ladies and gentlemen, until next time.